Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And I am in a studio that you've never seen me broadcast from before. So it's our engineering room down in the basement of the Fledge, and upstairs we built a pro wrestling rink. So shout out to Capital Pro Wrestling that's having the return of pro wrestling to Lansing today at the Fledge from 3 to 7, $15 at the door. Also wearing my Bigger Brain, Better World t-shirt. That's a celebration of diversity and how when we all get together and look at things differently and share different experiences, it makes us all have a better, bigger brain. So shout out to the foundation for the work they're doing. And I cannot wait to talk to my guest today. How you doing today, Ada? Ada. We didn't talk about how to pronounce your name right before the show. I'm ashamed.
No worries. That's the story of my life. Hi, I'm doing well.
What's that?
I'm doing well.
What you been up to today?
Today, I slept in because it's Saturday.
Oh,
and
nice.
I actually have a video up on my Facebook and Instagram pages. I did do a word of the weekend and did a little cooking and cleaning. That's about it. Nothing too crazy just yet. This is the big crazy thing of the day. So,
well, before we get into the craziness, what was the word of the weekend?
The word of the weekend was hapless, which is unlucky or unfortunate. And I don't consider myself hapless because I get to be here with you.
That's very nice. So I love getting to know people on the screen. So I love all my friends that have been on the show, but you and I haven't really talked much or met each other much. So I'm going to love this show. Would you tell us about you? Like where you were born and raised and went to school and all that?
Sure. So my life for the first 22 years was a big loop. I was born at Sparrow, lived in Lansing, moved out to Meridian Township, and then went to school at MSU. Actually volunteered at Sparrow while I was in undergrad there. So yeah, after I graduated, I moved out to Massachusetts, was there for a few years, and then I ended up coming back to Michigan, moving out to Grand Rapids, where I had a really transformative few years, working in really beefing up my nonprofit experience as a community organizer. And then I returned to Lansing summer of 2019, so I've been back in the area for a couple of years now.
Oh, nice. I had a loop where I went to Ann Arbor and then to Grand Rapids and then back to Lansing.
Yeah.
So I was in Grand Rapids in the 90s from like 93 to 2000.
Okay. So I think we had much different experiences.
Yeah. Wealthy and Benjamin is where I lived, and it wasn't, gentrified is what I'm going to say yet. So it was still affordable houses and kind of run down, but the kind of place I like to be in.
Yeah, it's definitely, I was downtown all 3 years and just seeing all of the development, like what was it? The Studio Park, the Celebration Cinema, big old thing.
Oh, yeah.
That was going in just as I was leaving. So seeing all that transformation, then seeing it from the community organizer standpoint and seeing how downtown and the West Side interacted, because that was a service area that I was working in. That was really interesting to see how big decisions can really affect the smaller things in people's individual lives.
Yeah, it's Grand Rapids changed fast, and you can almost see the ripple, right? The big decisions changing people's lives.
Completely. Bridge Street is so different now.
So, what kind of brought you to do what you're doing now?
So with copywriting, I actually didn't know the term existed until a few years ago, but I have been writing. I was published in a collection of poetry when I was in high school. I just wrote personally. I would take that into the tutoring space, or actually tutored a lot of like English writing, and as well as a whole host of other subjects. But writing is a thing that I thought was fun. I thought it was fun to help like edit my friends' essays, and I really just latched onto that in education. Like some of my favorite teachers were my English teachers, because not only were they great teachers, but they were teaching a subject that I loved and still love.
So tell us about being the founder and CEO of Boss&Broider.
So in undergrad, so my bachelor's is in microbiology, which seems like it has absolutely nothing to do with copywriting and marketing. In undergrad, I didn't really know much about business. I didn't think I would enjoy it. I didn't think it was fun per se, whereas I've always had an interest in science, so that led me to major in that for my degree. But what the two have in common is a lot of writing. With lab work, it's technical writing. Your reports are not going to have a great crescendo unless there's some discovery. But that even though I was still like in a different building on campus for all my classes, there was that common thread of writing. And I realized technical writing isn't what I love to do so much, is really digging deep and finding that message that will really relate to somebody.
So is that primarily what you do now, is technical writing?
No, so yeah, I ended up not going into the lab with that degree, but I do think that still getting to do a lot of writing in general had me analyze the way that I convey my thoughts, which has been a formative piece of this.
Well, when you said microbiologist, I got excited because I'm a food safety guy, and I love microbiology from that perspective. And I thought finally somebody that can communicate what food safety really is to people. That's what I was thinking that whole time you were talking about how technical writing is so important.
Yes, it is.
And technical writing could be very useful around here because we're going after some grants with the NSF that have research or R&D components to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to definitely talk. But let's hear more. What's some of the things you do now?
So I actually work as a copywriter as my 9-to-5, and then I have a copywriting firm that I run personally. And really, the two main, so there's copywriting, and then there's the copywriting arm of copywriting, and then there's the content arm, and then there's like the technical arm in the middle. So what I do day to day is I write, content writing is more like blog posts, things like, hey, get to know me, here are some things that may interest you. And then there's copywriting, where it's more direct, like slogans or copywriting, social media ads, that sort of thing. So I get to do the content and the copywriting in my copywriting role. But technical writing, it is very important. I've had to write policies and update policies before. So it's not that I can't do it, but I think where I'm really growing a lot right now is in the other arms of copywriting.
So what's like a typical customer for you?
A typical customer for me would be if somebody needs like product descriptions. I love finding new terms for things, just new ways to describe things that are kind of snappy and to the point. Like in my day job, I will help proofread responses that will go out to different people that we work with. And then when I make smaller edits to it, I call them baby edits. And it's just a cute little thing. But then we now, with my coworkers, when we work on those projects, anytime somebody mentions a baby edit, we all know what we're talking about. So just things like that. And, that can translate outside of my day job as well, is just finding things that people will relate to you. And it's, a positive thing and a fun thing. It doesn't have to be, there were minute edits to this document. No, baby edit, here you go. It's a lot easier. It's more fun.
You'd be fun to hang around and talk with for a while about how I describe the fledge, because I always have to spend a little bit of time analyzing the person that I'm talking to and what the context is going to be, because we're so all over the place. So you would help somebody that has a problem like that. Like we have a not necessarily a communication problem, but it's not succinct and quick enough. It
Yes.
takes too much to explain to people.
Yes, I love coming up with a snappy name for a concept. I love being a little bit. So I'm definitely a self-understood nerd, self-aware nerd, and I like taking big information, breaking it down into little chunks, and that's what you need with advertising, especially with the Instagrams and the TikToks. I know you just joined. Congratulations, you're doing better than me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, not thank you that I'm doing better than you. I want us all to do good. There's lots of room in this space.
Yes, yeah. I see TikTok and I'm just like, I don't know if my editing, I'm more of a writer than an editor, so we'll see. Maybe one day I'll join the stampede. But for now, I'll be focusing on things like really words more than video, and you can use them together, like with subtitles, to be more inclusive with the media that we share, but also to know that even though I love big words and I love the flowery language, that's not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be. So I think just keeping that in mind, and the more work that I do, the more that I realize areas in which I can fine tune that more to the audience.
All right. So we didn't really talk about this, but I want to tell you like a scenario. I get, so I've got a form that people can fill out to contact the Fledge on my website. And every single day, maybe multiple times a day, somebody hits me up to be like a guest poster on my WordPress site, or, to write a blog for me and all of this. Is that similar to what you do? And why should we not do that? And why should we go with you?
That is similar. I have actually posted, it was Melissa Florzia at Events and Marketing. I posted on her website, I had a guest blog there. And that is something I do. If you want to read it, I'll find a link. I can send that out. Take a moment and sit. SIT, that's an acronym, is the name of the article. And that was actually talking about burnout. And there was burnout that I experienced when I was a community organizer, because sometimes it's hard to set boundaries with the things that we love. And if you don't set the boundaries will just kind of crop up and hit you. And then you're forced to rest, and you're forced to take a moment and sit. And sit stands for sit, I believe sit, identify, and try. So take a moment, sit, assess everything, remove yourself so that you can assess it, because it's hard. And I think sometimes there's guilt attached to trying to process an environment and process the way that you might be overdoing it, general you. So it's good to remove yourself, have that clinical distance with what you're going through, to identify, like, now that you see all the pieces laid out, what's working, what's not. And then there's T, try. You don't necessarily know what solution will work, but you know that what you're currently doing is not effective. So that's where you really activate that T, that try. And then you use that to see, will this work? Let me try, on a smaller scale. Let me modify this. And that can be for us as human beings just going through life, or it can be for your business. And, as an entrepreneur myself, I have to think, okay, what's working? Like, I'm not getting much feedback on this. Oh, the analytics don't make sense on that. But then I also have to remember, I've only been in business for a year and a half now. So I'm just getting started, baby.
And in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes.
Nobody could predict anything. So.
Exactly. While shifting sectors in my day job. So, there's a lot going on. So
yeah. I want to point out a term that you used that I just love, this phrase, or the two words that you used, clinical distance.
Yes.
And, I often say, as an entrepreneur, you have to stay objective, and people suck you into praise and flattery and telling you what you want to hear. And you can start to get kind of disillusioned. And that clinical distance, are you good at that with your business? Saying, oh man, that didn't work.
I think so, because I know that I'm new. So, I'm taking baby steps out here. I'm still kind of in the R&D phase for a lot of the things that I'm working on. I have, whole sheets of all the ideas I want to do. But if I do them all now, I'll get burnt out, and then I'll have to take an SIT myself. So, I think as I become more understanding of what works for me and why those things work for me, I think then it might be a little bit harder because then you feel like, oh, I know it already. And, of course this should work. This always works. Markets change. Sometimes things just don't work out because they just don't work out. And I think with the pandemic, it was frustrating to see other business owners, like some people I know and some people I don't, to see them not be able to use what has worked for so long. And I think, though it is radically unfortunate that a lot of businesses have had to shut down or, can't find, employees and things like that, I think when you have a hardship, you also have an opportunity. And
right.
that is something to hold on to. That is something to really be intentional about, because it can happen to you and then that can be it. Or this didn't work, but, which isn't to say that you don't take time to rest, you don't take time to heal. That's very important, but you can use that bad and turn it for good.
Yeah, I love this advice. I love the way you're talking about it. What would you say your mission is? Like, what's your passion? Like, who do you love to help? Or what's that look on their face that you really know you did what you love to do?
My big thing, definitely from spending, most of the last decade working in nonprofit, is really to see local people thrive. More than anything, people come from all different backgrounds. They have a lot of adverse experiences. There's also this this kind of quiet feature of that space of people who don't know how to celebrate themselves because they were told they were worthless, or, oh, well, I've had issues with substance use, I can't do this, or I'm a teen mom. Everybody says, well, they're not living your life, are they? And the fact that people, will come to me for help with certain things, like, I don't take that lightly, and I really appreciate that. And that is something that gives me energy, is being able to help someone celebrate themselves and push forward with the things that they've dreamed of, because you don't want to look back and think, oh, my life is just 80 years of what if. That's kind of the impression itself. So even with me starting this business, I was ruminating on it. Oh, maybe, I don't know, but at least I know that I did it. So.
Everything you just said was awesome. You're my hero right now. Because I always say we got to play the hand we're dealt in our communities. And if somebody's behind or they're falling down or whatever, we need to go stand by them and help them up and walk with them. And we don't need to fix them. We don't need to replace them. We just need to be here with each other and start to thrive together by, helping the local people succeed.
Exactly.
And if everyone around the world did that, we'd all be cool.
Yeah, revitalize.
So, I think that is an amazing kind of outlook on it. What's something you do every damn day to push your mission forward?
Definitely learning. So I am first generation Nigerian American. So there was always that bicultural element. There was also the feeling of being othered. I remember, I was in second grade. My name is unconventional for a lot of people. And I remember specifically thinking that I wanted my first name to be Vanessa or Chelsea. And I wanted to rearrange the letters in my last name to be Monub, because MONUB instead of MBONU. Very creative. I didn't realize that. I was 7. But also kind of heartbreaking, because I thought that even, as a literal child, the way that I showed up in the world wasn't enough. And I think a lot of people feel that for different reasons. So one thing that I've learned through documentaries is just how many factors go into a person's life, and how it's like, what is that show, Chopped, where they give them the baskets of mystery ingredients, and then they'll make completely different meals out of it sometimes. Or sometimes they might make very similar meals, but the presentation is not the same. So just realizing that for us as human beings, our presentation is not supposed to be the same, because those chef's hands, there are different factors that come into place. We get kind of cooked differently in the crucible of life, and it doesn't make us bad just because we're different. That's not, I think people try to make them synonymous, and that's a convolution.
I I hate you use the word chopped, which is the word that comes to, we get chopped up into all these different demographics. I said it earlier, and, all these ways to identify, certain groups and trends. And I blame all of that on, a lot of systemic racism, but also, marketing plays into that so much that, I just want to talk to people. Every single person's unique. Every single person is, they've got a different story. It's like every damn day almost that, you can't just say these 28,000 people are all the same because they're from this island. They might have characteristics, but we're all so different and so unique. And so, I don't know, there's a funny bumper sticker. It says, you're just as unique as everyone else.
Yes. So, I agree with that.
I love your mission. I love what you're doing. What should we be talking about? So we talked about you and your projects, and I'm going to go into the daisy chaining the shows together. But did we forget to talk about anything with Boss&Broider or any other projects that you're doing?
So a big thing about the work that I'm trying to do is I do want to focus on small businesses and local organizations. I also want to be intentionally inclusive as I build this company, inclusive in the type of businesses, in the owners of the businesses, in the life stories of the businesses. Because everybody, if you're a business, you need marketing. Marketing takes so many forms. It could be a big van driving down Michigan, or it could be at a pop-up event, like I'll be at tomorrow for Skin Studio 211's pop-up market, 1 to 6. I have a raffle. There's 5 raffle prizes you can win. So definitely stop by, see that. Check out this video. Check out my Facebook page, Boss&Broider. Check out my Instagram page, Boss&Broider. All spelled the same way, I believe. And that was a bit of a detour from your original question, but I just wanted to make sure I put that out there.
No, that's good. I'm so happy you did that. And it's Skin Studio 211 tomorrow, 1 to 6, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
3911 West Michigan.
Yeah. Out by Waverly, right? Like Waverly in Michigan, West Michigan?
Yes.
Okay. She was on the show before too.
Awesome.
So I do daisy chain the shows together, and yesterday on the show I had a guest who is a classic pianist, and she's from Russia. Her name is Ludmila, and her question to you is, what will make you happy?
What will make me happy? Getting to help other people thrive, because ultimately that's in the same vein as what I did when I was a nonprofit, and the different roles I held was helping people celebrate themselves through, like, yes, you deserve to put work into this business. You deserve to have this business. You deserve for this business to be successful. Let's celebrate all of these things, but also to thrive, you need business to have a business. So I'll use my nerdy literary ways and help you out with that. Those are things that would make me happy professionally. Personally, I think COVID has forced all of us, really, if we've been willing and able to sort ourselves out, as far as, you can't hide behind something. You can aspire to things, but when they don't work out, who are you after the dust settles? All that stuff. Like I've read or listened to, I believe, 40 audiobooks, and a large amount of those were self-help. And I think that was my subconscious way of trying to make sense of the world and, like, make sense of who I was now. I had a major birthday in quarantine. I wasn't happy. I was safe. And I had, a very limited amount of immediate family members to celebrate with. And I remember the day of my birthday, I was like, I was going to travel for my birthday. I'm so sick of not flying anywhere. And then the next day I woke up so, like, almost tearful, because I'm like, people are losing family members, so many of them. And I'm upset because I couldn't go on vacation for my birthday. Like, we all got food from one of our favorite local restaurants, and we watched movies, Nigerian movies on Netflix, and it was a great celebration. I got an ice cream cake with my face on it. Like, these are all little things, but they're things to be grateful for. And I think it's taking us back to home base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel grounded like that then?
Yeah, I feel a lot more grounded. I feel like I understand the realities of the world now, even though they're sometimes very painful, as we've seen in the last year. But I'm also grateful. Like, I was at some grocery store and I was checking out, and the woman in front of me started a business. I wish I could remember her name because I would shout her out. But she started a business. I believe she's Lansing based, making like phone cases and doing all this work with resin. And she mentioned like how many family members and loved ones she's lost to COVID.
Was her last name Belding?
I wish I knew. I should have asked, but I have a weird thing about being nosy sometimes. It's like, do you want to shout your business out somewhere? But yeah, maybe it was. I'll do some Facebook stalking later and see if I can. No, just kidding. But yeah, just seeing the loss. And when COVID hit, I was actually working in healthcare and on the administrative side. And that, I mean, just that whole March to April, that big paradigm shift was a lot. And it was more, it affected me more than I realized because, I would interpret for some patients, but I wasn't seeing every single patient who came through. Because I was a little bit more removed from the clinical setting, I didn't know all of the patients as well as my coworkers, which also made me feel some kind of way like, oh, I feel like I should, being in administration, like I should know the people that I'm serving, all of them directly, even though there are literal thousands of them. But it still was just a lot to manage. And I don't think I gave myself permission to really kind of grieve all that I had experienced because I felt like, oh, well, I don't have COVID. I haven't lost anyone to COVID. I'm not treating people with COVID. I'm interpreting while other people treat them with COVID, for COVID, or for other conditions. So I think, to answer your question, yes, I do feel more grounded now. I think I've come to appreciate the fact that even though I was sorting things out myself, I could be there for coworkers. I told them, my office is a vent box. Nothing leaves here. If you need to vent, let me know. And then I took some time earlier this year to really create that space for myself, which was really important.
Yeah. Did you, I thought that COVID forced us all to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And then, we had no choice. Our vulnerabilities just popped up. Yeah. And we couldn't hide from them. And then coming in to 2021, when we started getting the vaccinations or whatever, and the cases started going down, I felt like, now's the time, like the year of vulnerability, to not be forced to be vulnerable, but to accept that your new strength doesn't come from your old strength. It comes from your vulnerabilities. So if we look at them and we address them, we'll get stronger faster.
Absolutely. And that's where you can be more open to learn so that you can improve, because now we see all the things that we don't know. And I think that can cause us to go back to, like you said, go back to our old ways, but that's not what will serve us in this time.
Yeah. I like your mindset, your view of things. I don't have a guest yet for tomorrow, so shout out to anybody who hasn't been a guest yet. I do have to fill a gap tomorrow, but it's a random question anyway. So what question would you like me to pass to that guest?
So for the next guest, TBD, I would like to ask them, what is a habit they had in quarantine that they used to cope with everything that they felt ashamed of, that they now realize is a strength?
Yeah. So that just scared all the potential guests away. So what's a habit that you picked up during COVID that you thought maybe, I don't know, maybe you're still ashamed, but it strengthened you too? Or is a strength? I'm not asking it right. What you said.
Something for me that I was kind of embarrassed about was continuing dance classes. So I grew up from 7 to 14. I wanted to be a ballerina, and my mother indulged me, and that led to 7 years of dance. So we still have all the recitals like in a box somewhere at my parents' house. I don't fit them anymore, but they're still cute. But for me, it was definitely interesting because I started in the fall of 2019. So our recital was supposed to be in summer, like peak COVID times. And I felt it was a lot of mental wrestling because, I don't look the same way I did when I was 14. But all of my peers in the dance class are, middle school and high school age people. I'm the only dancer of color. Very, very welcoming studio. I want to shout out the studio, Park Lake. PK, thank you so much for giving us the space to relieve stress in the pandemic. I just want to shout her out. Riley, thank you for giving us all the cool core. You make us look awesome. I can't wait for the recital. What is it, July 30th? The last Saturday in July at Lake Lansing. You can stop by. It's free. Donate if you want to. But anyway, I wrestled with that a lot because I was like, oh, this is an awkward visual. This is why am I trying to reclaim my dance career in a sense. But I started it knowing that it would be a challenge, knowing that I haven't done formal dance in so long. So there's some muscle memory there, but then there's the awkwardness of the time that has elapsed. And also, like I said, I don't seem to, one of these things is not like the other. I've always felt welcome in this space, but I was like, isn't this a weird COVID coping mechanism? Is everybody just taking dance classes on Zoom? Is it just me? But we have a recital in a couple of weeks, and I'm so excited. This is kind of it's my victory moment after COVID. And, I'm not looking to get scouted or anything, but for me, just getting back out there and pushing it. And like I said before, celebrating yourself, part of that too is don't be afraid to look weird, because sometimes you kind of need to. And sometimes it's really not that weird, but right. Because of the insecurities we have, because, the last time I did it, all this X, Y, and Z, and now it's so different. It's different, but you're still doing it, aren't you? So let that answer be yes.
See, I got to get better at that, not being worried about looking weird, because I don't even like my voice. I never like how I look on the show, and not really in a vain thing, but in more of a, I don't know. I don't have time for it. So I just feel, I don't know. I don't dance like I used to. Yeah.
I mean, it definitely, there have been times where I'm like, I was not giving it 100%. I did not leave it all on the dance floor. But just knowing that those days will come and to work through them when they get here. And if it's a day where you really feel like it, like I said, you don't want to look back and have a whole bag of what ifs. So, yeah.
So happiness, sadness, joy, or hope, which word or words would you like to talk about?
Sadness and hope.
And I'm going to let you take the lead on that for a second. Why those two together?
Because in a bit of an unexpected way, one begets the other. There's the sadness of the pandemic. There's the sadness of, I think as adults, something that I've experienced is the way I thought my life would go was not the way it went. Some things between the theoretical picture and the obtained yield, have been the same. I did see myself doing more traveling and having more financial independence and doing all these things, which I have reached, but the way in which I got there was so different. And I think there's the loss of a dream, even if it's a small thing for people who might say, oh, I'm going to move out of my parents' house and I'll never move back. And then if they do, they feel like they failed. Well, no. I mean, there's a lot of circumstances that can surround that choice, or, maybe people don't really have that choice, especially during the pandemic. They're like, I need to conserve resources. I need somebody to talk to, because literally, for my well-being, it's good. So definitely processing that and seeing how we can still relate to each other and connect to each other. I know as we get older, it's harder to make friends. And if you are a person of a very advanced age, I feel like a lot of the elderly population is forgotten. And during COVID, they couldn't really receive visitors. So I think there's a lot of sadness surrounding people just not being able to live the lives they thought they would lead, or at least hold on to whatever nuggets of their theoretical life that they had been able to keep before. But in a way, it's also shedding that pretense. So it's like, okay, now we get to build it from the ground up. Now we get to aspire to what we want to aspire to, not just, I'm going to work this office job, and then I'm going to get brunch with these 5 people every Saturday, and then we're going to go to Cabo San Lucas once every 3 years, and then I'll fall in love and get married and all these things. Like, now people can decide. I mean, people always could, but I think now there's the hope of like, no, what do I want? Like, oh, I really get to build it. I really get to, I had to break it to build it. I had to shed all the things that were not working so I could reconstruct. So I think there's hope in that. There's hope in Gen Z, the Zoomers. I've got family members who are part of Gen Z, and talking to them is so interesting. Like, once I get over the fact that it makes me feel a little bit old, I also get excited at, just how hard people are willing to work to include people and to be mindful of things. And sometimes things come up and I'm like, I've never thought about that before. But I get to, because I'm choosing to relate to people now. So one of my family members also had a really big birthday in quarantine. So, a lot of people are not, getting married the way they want to, celebrating the birth of a child the way they want to, celebrating a career milestone the way they want to. Like, I think there was some social media post of someone, and it was like, oh, finishing my college degree at like 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, and they just closed the laptop in the room and that was it. That's not what they had planned for themselves. But now it's like, well, when you get to that next chapter, feel free to go all out. Feel free to really celebrate yourself and you have that hope. You've seen what the world really is now. Like, there's no hiding that anymore. So you can build hope according to the way that the world exists and according to what you actually want out of it.
You asked me before the show, when I said my last show was September 11th, how I was going to celebrate it. Yeah. And I don't like my answer anymore. I got to go back and I got to think about it and make it a better answer. So you've motivated me to do that.
Awesome. Glad I get out.
It did help. So thank you for taking time out on your Saturday and coming and getting on the show. And I hope it wasn't the craziest thing.
This was good, honestly. Sorry.
So I think your mindset and the way that you think, we all could use some lessons there on keeping that good mindset. And your energy just radiates. I can feel it through the screen.
Thank you, Jared. Yeah.
What would you like to take us out with?
2 things. One, before I forget, I actually have been to the Fledge a couple times. I took small business workshops from Charlie Burnett that we're organizing together at the Fledge. So I think I've heard of you and all the good work you're doing. I don't think we've had the chance to talk this extensively, but I do want to thank you for hosting space for people, because the small business workshops that I attended that Charlie put on have helped me get to where I am now. So I just wanted to thank you for helping me foundationally. What do I want to take people out with? I guess I'll shout out my the event tomorrow at Skin Studio 211, 3911, I believe, West Michigan, but Waverly in Michigan, near the intersection. There's a pop-up market, and it's 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. If you stop by my table, you can enter to win one of 5 raffle prizes. I'll be posting those on my socials, Facebook and Instagram. Boss&Broider, BOSSANDBROIDER. I am local, I am Lansing based, and I am here for you. Thanks.
Thank you. And you were a great guest. I appreciate you very much. And thanks for everyone. Go out and support corner of Washington and Waverly tomorrow, 1 to 6. A lot of different vendors will be there. So go meet and support the community. Entrepreneurs make us stronger every single time. Thank you so much, Anna. Stick with me for a second.